Let's get you to your top 5 takeaways from yesterday. The Cardinals, Arizona unbeaten. They have been so dominant this season. I went and watched that game, and I'm going, it makes sense why they've been this dominant. They have players everywhere. That offense is loaded. It gives me flashes back to what you used to think watching Kansas City play the last few years. There is so much talent on that offense. Kyler is just he almost can't even get touched back there. It's like, wow. And Kingsbury's doing some really creative things as well. And defensively, Isaiah Simmons, J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, a great secondary. Budda Baker had a pick. They are one complete team. That's your take. How good is Arizona right now, Rodney? This is wild, man.
Hey, man, it's a trip watching them on tape because you see all these defensive guys chasing Kyler Murray around, and they get so frustrated because they think they have him, and all of a sudden he'll dip and he'll, hit outside, and he's throwing the ball down the field. But for me, I'm really impressed with just their unselfishness as an offense. You think about Rondale Moore, you think about Christian Kirk, A.J. Green. These guys aren't complaining. DeAndre Hopkins about how many catches. It's all about winning the football game, and that's what you have to have when you have so many weapons. And also think about just the running back, James Conner. He looks like a totally different person. Chase Edmonds out of the backfield. I just love this offense. They got so many weapons. And from a defensive standpoint, you talked about how loaded they are. And you see guys like J.J. Watt, who's a veteran player. Chandler Jones hustling, getting to the ball when they had that goal line stand when they stopped Trey from getting in the end zone. It's just that type of hustle, that type of effort that's really getting this team to the next level, man. And I can see why they're undefeated, Jack.
And it looks like J.J. Watt, Rod. Like that, it doesn't look like some halfway version of J.J. Watt or an old version or a hurt version. I mean, he is bullying guys on the field. Mike McGlinchey's having really a good year, and this is probably year about 4 or 5 for him, so it's where you'd expect to be seeing his best football. And it didn't matter who they put on him. He was having a serious issue. It was J.J. Watt, big-time issue. Chandler Jones, big-time issue. He's just getting driven backwards. And you think about, for San Francisco, that's a matchup that they have to find a way to win. I mean, if they're going to win football games in the West, in the NFC West, they have to figure out a way to block those guys, and I just don't see it. And Trey Lance, there's that ugly interception that he threw early in the game to Budda Baker. Now they're going to try to punch one in, 4th and 1 at the goal line. Bam! Gets smacked right at the goal line. I just thought all game long you're going, how much more advanced right now are the Cardinals than are San Francisco? And I think in large part it's because all those pieces they brought in. Simmons and the defensive front, J.J. Watt is such a huge add. If he stays healthy, this feels like a Super Bowl built team to me in Arizona.
The key for J.J. Watt is he doesn't have to be the 3-time MVP, defensive MVP, because he's no longer that player. But he's got other guys that he can depend on, and that's the beauty about being a veteran player going to another team that has other players. You don't have to be the main guy. You could just kind of do your job and expect that your other guys are going to do their job, and that's what you're seeing from JJ, and he's having the time of his life. He has an offense. They can score points. Defensively, he's got a plethora of good players around him, and now what he's doing is, as a veteran player, he's speaking to these young players, and he's coaching them up. And I just see nothing but positive things coming from the Arizona Cardinals, especially like you talked about, if they can just maintain that level of health.
They are one talented group. Let's get to another talented group, the Chargers over in the AFC West. All these teams in the West right now. What is it about the West Coast? I mean, all these teams out there. LA, unbelievable. San Francisco still hanging on. Arizona, darn good. It's all these West Coast teams that keep getting better and better. So the Chargers have now knocked off Kansas City. They come back, knock off the Browns, another team at the top of the AFC. Shoo! What are you seeing out there with that other LA team? Everybody talking about the Rams. It's the Chargers making headlines now.
Well, I'm going straight to the coach, Brandon Staley, and what he's done, he's changed that mindset. Now he's got those guys believing that they can win, and I love the aggressive mindset. Now, I thought he was crazy on a 4th down and 2 at his own 25-yard line, I think. He went for it. They went for it on 4th and 7. He kept going for it, and I'm like, this guy really trusts his quarterback. He really trusts his offense, and when you have an aggressive mindset like that, your coach, your players are really starting to believe in the coach and saying, you know what, he believes in us. We can do this, and it's no hesitation. Fourth down, they go for it. I love what Brandon Staley is doing. You can see that they're having confidence, whereas years before, they couldn't finish. They would have penalties, special teams mistakes. They couldn't finish at the end of the game, and now he's developing this mentality where they're having confidence, where they feel like they can finish against anyone, and it's a beautiful sight. And I'm not even talking about the weapons and Mike Williams and all the things that they got on the offensive side of the ball. This team could really be special if they continue to follow their leader, Brandon Staley.
I thought that this really should have been a game that the Browns win. There was 2 plays that they gave it away with. This very well may be one of them right here. This is just a Herbert run, it looks like. But it was 2 Mike Williams, just complete blown coverage plays where Mike Williams is running completely by himself. This may be one of them. Nope, this is just another blown coverage. That time it's Keenan Allen. But it was the one where Herbert's running to his right. Williams is running a post back the other side, and he just throws to me. There it is. He's the only one on that side of the field. It's just complete blown coverage. And in the first half of that game, you had the Browns feeling like they were taking control of it. And again, Mike Williams is 40 yards down the field. There's nobody within 20 yards of him. So this game, to me, I thought Cleveland looked like not only can they hang with, they could have beaten the Chargers in L.A. I mean, so many times they're bringing 8 guys in up front, hammering this running game. Chubb had an awesome game. Kareem Hunt had a good game. And one other thing I'm noticing, Rod, is that I don't think Baker Mayfield trusts OBJ. How often was Odell Beckham Jr. open? And I mean open, and Baker's throwing into tight coverage because he doesn't even want to go to OBJ. That said a lot to me about their relationship and the trust that is non-existent.
That's the thing that really stood out to me. You know, he drops back and he's looking at Donovan Peoples-Jones, and I got Odell on the other side. I got Odell Beckham on the other side going one-on-one, and he's looking at Donovan Peoples-Jones, and I'm like, what is going on, Kevin Stefanski? Either you're using Odell as like a dummy, or he's not 100%. Like, you got to go to him. He's a very talented guy, and you want him to continue to build confidence, get him the ball. I'm just sitting here stunned, too. I'm watching tape. I'm like, what's wrong with Odell? Why isn't Baker even looking his way? I don't know. Maybe that's direct, information from his coach saying, don't throw it to Odell. I don't know what's going on there.
He's missed a ton of time, right? He's missed a lot of time, and they've had success when he's not on the field, right? They've really, a season ago, they took off when he was not on the field. Like, this offense came together and started producing at a very high level. Run game got going. Jarvis Landry got going, got involved with the tight ends. All of that happened when OBJ was off the field. So you just have to wonder how much that comes back to Baker and his comfort with OBJ. But there was at least 3 times in that game where they're running a go route and a deep cross to Odell Beckham Jr. The safety's taking the go, and Odell Beckham Jr. is running by himself 25 yards across the field. And you're going, oh, it's wide open again, and he's forcing something elsewhere. And it kept happening. And I thought that Stefanski was calling the play to say, hey, Baker, it was open the first time. It was open the second time. It was open we got to throw this ball to Odell Beckham Jr., and he didn't do it. And he also had that 4th down drop early. It was 4th and 2. OBJ had the crossing route. Baker threw it to him, and he dropped it, wound up resulting in a turnover on downs. I wonder if that just played into, while he said, I'm done with OBJ this game, because he was so open and not getting the ball, which I found fascinating.
Yeah, and offensively, I was really impressed with the Chargers' Austin Eckler. I mean, this little dude, who impresses you more than him? I mean, he is so tough running in between the tackles. And the guy's been hurt a little bit, but when he's on the field, he is productive. He's tough. He's strong. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. You can line him up as a wide receiver. You can put him in the slot. He just does everything. And this is a guy that really doesn't get enough attention. Mike Williams has been absolutely fabulous for them. He's big, he's athletic, he can make a lot of catches, but Austin Eckler makes this offense go. And I love the way Justin Herbert is spreading the ball around. It's just a really good offense, and I like what the Chargers are doing on the offensive side of the ball, man, and that defense will continue to get better as the season goes along.
Move you along to your third headline here, Rod. You said you talked to Tom Brady. I remember you telling me this. You talked to Tom Brady in the offseason. So what did he tell you, and how's it translating?
No, I mean, we talked about this too, and he told me, he said, look, this offense is going to be ridiculous because this is my second year in the offense. I'm a lot more comfortable, and I feel like we're going to put up a bunch of numbers, and that's exactly what he's doing at 44 years old. He's throwing 5 touchdowns in a single game. It's just been absolutely remarkable to see what Tom is doing and just the comfort level that he has with Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown looks like he's 28 years old. So he looks unbelievable. Mike Evans is that big, fast target that they get the ball down the field. And this is something pretty special because they don't even have Rob Gronkowski yet. And I've always said, if I were coaching Rob Gronkowski, I would let Gronk sit 5 or 6 games a year, let him play maybe 10 to 12 games, play some games in the regular season, take some plays, some games off during the middle part, but really have him ready when the playoffs come in the latter part of the season. So this is probably a good thing for Rob Gronkowski, getting that rest and rejuvenating himself.
Isn't that just a crazy thing? But I feel the same way about it, that it could be a positive for the overall season of the Bucs to lose Gronk at the point that they did, and it's an injury that he'll be able to come back from, and I would anticipate be able to come back from at full Gronk speed. And this year, to me, he's just looked like faster. You mentioned AB looking younger. They must have old TB12 method just going throughout that.
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm seeing. AB looks young. I'm looking at Gronk, and I'm like, Gronk looks like he's 28 again. I'm like, when is he fast again? He's got a little speed back to him, but I'm thinking about him missing all this time, 5 games in the middle of the year. If he's healthy for the playoffs when everybody else is beat up from this 17-game schedule, look out, Rodney Harrison, look out.
You'll be the biggest dummy on the planet if you got Tom Brady, a guy that's playing at 44 years old, and you don't follow his program. I would say, Tom, who's your chef? I'm going to pay you to cook. When can I come into TB12 and do my stretches, my band work, everything that Tom Brady is doing? Trust me, he offers this to his teammates, but a lot of times they don't want to do it. And you see Antonio Brown, you see Gronk, and you see Mike Evans. Mike Evans is staying healthy. You know, Antonio Brown is healthy, and it's a reason because they're following Tom Brady in that TB12. It really works.
There you go. As always, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are still right there at the top of the league when you start thinking about who's going to go chase this Los Angeles Super Bowl. You got to have them right there. We saw how much Brady loves and relies on Gronk, I thought, in the game where they went back to Foxborough, and he wasn't on the field. Specifically, you get down around that red area. When he doesn't have Gronk, he always looks so much more uncomfortable, so get him back. Let's get to your 4th headline. Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. This duo, nobody seems to be able to stop it. They have this unique communication that's nonverbal, but they have an ability to find that back shoulder and do some remarkable things just knowing each other so well. How do you cover these guys? How do you take Davante Adams away?
Hey, man, we sit here and we always talk about double teaming a wide receiver, and it's not that difficult. It's just you put the cornerback, and either whether he plays outside technique or inside technique, whatever technique he decides to play, the safety plays opposite of that. And you just double team the guy, you play physical with him, you take him away, and you force Aaron Rodgers to go elsewhere. But every time I watch tape, I just don't see it. You got them both double covered, and he runs straight between the corner and the safety. This should not happen. If the corner gets up there and jams him and slows him down, it won't happen. How does this happen? This is just crazy. And this happens every single week. If I'm a defensive coordinator, there's no way these players could play for me playing that type of technique. And it's coming from the defensive coordinators. You got to get up there, jam them. If you're playing inside that technique, force them outside toward the sideline and let the safety take him. Now you have him taken out. Now he has to go somewhere else. Davante Adams is the guy. When we're in San Francisco, he was the guy. Against Cincinnati, he was the guy on the same route, a deep end that put them in position to kick the game-winning field goal. You have to double-team Davante Adams and take him out the game.
And this was a game that the Bengals could not lose. I just don't think they could lose this one. And if you look at the second half of their schedule, it gets so much harder. And this was a tough game early that they could have stolen. It was at home. You still have Pittsburgh who has to come in there. I'm just looking around the AFC North. Baltimore is now 4-1. Baltimore only has 1 loss. Pittsburgh starting to win again. They have Seattle this week, who doesn't have Russell Wilson. You got to anticipate they are likely to win that game. And then the Cleveland Browns look awesome. I mean, there's no way they should have lost to the Chargers, but they let them come all the way back, basically using all the fourth downs that you described to just play so aggressive and steal an extra down, 1 series, 2 series, 3 series, and wound up putting them over the top. But they needed to go win this game. And if there's one concern that I have about Cincinnati, it's with Joe Burrow, who has been phenomenal, but the turnovers are starting to happen. He's starting to force the football and have some ugly interceptions that are really costing this team. I understand that kicking was the ultimate story when neither kicker could make it at the end, but how concerning some of these interceptions we're starting to see from Joe Burrow, because we really hadn't seen it so much in his past.
No, it obviously is concerning, but that's something that you feel like you're going to deal with, with a rookie quarterback, is those interceptions. But the thing that really bothers me is, he not really bothers me, but he's a very confident kid, so he feels like he can put it in all the tight spaces that he can possibly put him in. But at the end of the day, you can't throw interceptions. You can't turn the ball over, and it's up to his head coach, Zach Taylor, to maybe bring him back, hone him back in a little bit. And, a lot of times you get really antsy because a lot of big plays to Jamar Chase and Higgins and Boyd. But at the end of the day, you can't turn the ball over. And that's something that every head coach, every offensive coordinator preaches to their team.
Yeah, Rod, I'll get you to your fifth takeaway. We've basically hit on the top of the AFC. The interesting thing is that the AFC, in my opinion, has gotten a lot more fascinating with Kansas City just falling back a step or two. Thinking about all the teams that are in the picture at this point, the Bills, the Chargers, the Chiefs are still obviously in the picture, the Browns. I just think it turns into maybe a 5-team race at this point. So the Bills handle Kansas City at home, and that game really wasn't particularly close. What's been the key to this run they've created in Buffalo?
It's been the head coach. And I think the head coach, Sean McDermott, he's done a great job of giving his assistants full power, full autonomy. You look at Brian Daboll, he was with the Patriots. He's done a terrific job with Josh Allen. Yes, Josh Allen has talent, but look over the years and how he's ascending, how he's getting better. Every single year, he's getting better. And the poise that we saw when we were in Kansas City, the comfort level in the pocket, moving around, keeping his vision down the field. Emmanuel Sanders has been terrific, the chemistry that they have. But just look, he never panics. He's still directing traffic, moving. He's moving to his right, and he's throwing that off of 1 foot. Who does that? You talk about Dawson Knox and the impact that he's had, 5 touchdowns as a tight end. He's just doing a great job, man. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you think about Leslie Frazier and the game plan that he came up with, keeping 2 safeties back, at times playing man-free, where they're playing man-to-man on 3rd down. And now you have the middle safety lurking for the protection on Travis Kelce and those short crossers. So I just think Sean McDermott has really empowered his assistants. This coaching staff is really the reason why this team is playing so consistent and playing on this level. And props to the players as well, but the coaching staff has these guys prepared.
Yeah, those are great points. And Rod, the Bills didn't blitz at all. So do we feel like that there is now a new book being written? Is there a new book out defensively? Saw the Chargers use this strategy. Saw the Bucs, if you go back to the Super Bowl, use this strategy and beat Mahomes as well. Now we see it again with Buffalo, and they beat them handedly. Is the book being written about how to stop this Kansas City offense, or do you think Andy Reid finds some solutions here?
Well, I think Andy Reid will make adjustments. That's what great coaches do, and you can't keep doing the same thing. And that's whenever you're dealing with a great offensive mind, as a defensive coordinator, you have to have variety. And that's the same thing Coach Belichick did against Tom Brady. He played some man, he played some zone, he blitzed him directly in his face. He rushed 3, he's dropped 8 at times. So that's what you have to do with a lot of these quarterbacks that you're facing. You just have to show them a variety of defenses.
One final one for me. I want to hit you on Coach Daboll, because offensive coordinator for the Bills came right over to us before the game, and you two had a brief conversation. What were some of the sentiments? What was the message that you were sending to him? What did he send back? What was the feel you got from that conversation?
No, it was all good. He just came over, gave me a hug, asked me how my family was doing, and I said, "Coach, what's up, man? You gonna tack these guys down the deep part of the field?" He just looked at me, gave me some dap. and then jogged away and just smiled and winked his eye at me. And I knew it. I said, you know what? He saw what I see on film. He sees that Kansas City safeties and their DBs are very vulnerable on a deep part of the field, and that's exactly what he did. He straight up exploited those guys, and it was just, I'm like, wow, to see Josh Allen leap over guys, throw the ball down the field, and just saw how in control they were offensively. And we talked about it, Jack. We're not even overly impressed with their run game. Like, they have solid running backs, but they don't have anybody that keeps you up at night, anybody that fears you. But those are solid players, man, and props to Sean McDermott. He did his thing.
Yeah, the only guy that keeps you up at night coming out of that backfield is Josh Allen. When he takes off and runs, that's the only thing that will keep you up at night worrying about those guys. But as soon as Dayball gave you that wink, he gave you that little wink running away, I was like, man, I knew I should have picked the Bills. I should have changed the pick right there. We'll take a break.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.